We are talking the pitfalls of a synthetic diet. Are you okay with synthetic things? So let's talk about the pros, the cons, the ins, the outs, so that you can make the best decision for you. Because what you decide for you may be different than what I decide for me. And that's okay. I do think it needs to be talked about, though. And this conversation will help you understand why I am so passionate about the magnesium that I source at Living the Good Life Naturally. That magnesium will never be lab produced. Why? When you synthetically produce magnesium in a lab, it does not have the ability to move your red blood cell numbers. And that's the whole reason we're soaking in magnesium is to achieve cell saturation. First, I have to tell you a story though. And it's about my father-in-law, and he was the most supportive papa. That's what grandfathers were called on my husband's side of the family, papa. And he only complained about two things when it came to our parenting. And one was when my oldest daughter was born, I had all these little bows on her head, and he thought that was horrific, that it was squeezing her brain cells. And he wouldn't say anything, but he'd just take them right off. The second thing he thought was horrible was feeding children cold cereal. And the one day I had said to him, we were there at my in law's house, and my mother in law was giving the kids cold cereal. And he had made a comment about the cold cereal. And at the time, with the knowledge that I had, because I didn't understand what I understand now, I said, "But Papa, look at all the nutrition on the back of the cereal box." And he looked at me with so much disgust and said, they would be better off eating the box than the cereal inside the box. Now, no shame if your kids or if you eat cold cereal. I'm not here to call anybody out. I am here to get you thinking about cold cereal, synthetic nutrition, and if it's a good fit for you. Now, if you're as healthy as you want to be and you wake up with bounding energy and go all through your day and you're eating cold cereal, you might not agree with anything that I say, but I'm someone who, since a young kid, has struggled with autoimmune, and I haven't always had energy. And after a failed surgery, I was in a wheelchair with seizures and tubes, and it was bad. So for me, I do everything I can to avoid synthetic nutrition. And that's going to show up for you in the magnesium that you purchase for your 30-day challenge from Living the Good Life Naturally. It will not be lab produced synthetic nutrition because that's not why we soak. We soak to achieve cell saturation. So the magnesium comes from a seabed and it's extracted from the ocean. And because of that, it has other nutritional cofactors that help move your red blood cell when you soak in it to achieve 6.3 or above to optimize your magnesium levels. Because we know when you have optimal magnesium levels, your body is able to take that magnesium and take your stored vitamin D and turn it into active vitamin D. And that's what creates a strong immune, a strong gut, a strong hormone profile, and loads of energy. But here's what got me going on this subject. Did you know if you were to go right now to Walmart and buy a bag of great value marshmallows, I debated whether to buy a bag to show you, and then I was like, nope, I don't even want to do it. I do not want to even support this. When you buy, I think it's the mini marshmallows. When you buy those mini marshmallows, turn it over, and on the ingredient list, it says tilapia, bioengineered food. Are you okay with that? I'm not okay with that. I am so not okay with bioengineered food going in my body. And let me tell you and give you some supporting reasons why I'm not, but I'd love to know, where are you at? Are you okay with it? We've got a couple people online right now that have joined me that on this live that started out to be a walk with me, and then my morning got away from me, and so it's in my office in the middle of the day. So it's not a walk with me. But tell me, post in the comments and tell me, are you okay with bioengineered food? Now, one thing I am grateful it's on the label so I can make the decision whether or not I want to put that in my body. Are you okay with that? With marshmallows with tilapia that's a bioengineered food? Well, I don't know. To me, that kind of sounds like an oxymoron. Bioengineered food. I want real food. And let me tell you why. So, my mom is in her mid 80s. I won't tell her age. She probably wouldn't like that. She's in her mid 80s. And oh, you and I are on the same page, Molly. We are singing the same song right now. My mom's in her mid 80s, and she was that generation that was marketed heavily to for calcium. Calcium builds strong bones. In fact, right now, if I were to go teach a class, and I have tested this over the last 20 years of teaching classes, and if I throw out, oh, I'm not alone, Julie, you're with me, Audra, you're with me. So if I were to throw out in a class and say, what nutrient builds bones? Do you know the majority of people would still answer calcium from all of the marketing to my mom's generation? And we know, now here's the thing, calcium's important. Eat some sesame seeds, okay? Eat sesame seeds. Put sesame seeds on everything. Sesame seeds are a great usable source of calcium. And calcium is important in whole food form. Now, remember, my name's Kristen. I'm not a doctor. I'm not diagnosing. I'm not telling you what to do. You and I are just having this conversation and helping each other be aware. And also, I'm recognizing I'm not the only one who doesn't want tilapia in marshmallows. Now, I don't want to throw shame on people who buy those because everybody has a different plan for where they're at. And there have been times I grabbed those marshmallows. I don't do that anymore. Not that it's a better decision to pass judgment, it's the best decision for me. Okay. So I want to be really careful because I think when we get into this discussion of food, we can judge and throw shame and make people feel worse. And okay, let's say you did buy the tilapia laced marshmallows, you're still walking and breathing and it's good, right? So we're just discussing this without throwing shame. And then probably I should throw out in fact, I think I'll do that to my email newsletter. I'll send out my marshmallow recipe because it's super easy to make your own marshmallows. And they actually can be a superfood and they store pretty well too. But I want to talk about one of the reasons why I'm so fanatical about this. When I realized synthetic nutrition was not getting me where I wanted to go. So let's go back to my mom's generation. I'll get back on track. My mom's generation was targeted with heavy marketing of synthetic calcium pills. And they were marketed that synthetic calcium was going to help them build strong bones. Now, calcium is an important part of bones, but not synthetic calcium. We now have the weakest bones of any generation to ever walk our planet because of that synthetic calcium and a couple other things. Largely in part due to that synthetic calcium because it just lays over the bones. Calcium, my son used to do cement work in high school, and he would put calcium into the cement to make it get hard. We don't want brittle bones. That synthetic calcium lays over our bones and makes them weak. We need magnesium for strong bones. We need magnesium-rich environment with calcium available for those two things to work together. So a magnesium-rich environment with real food calcium. We know now calcium does not build strong bones, but you can still walk into any health food store and buy calcium supplementation. And if you throw it out, even to people who are into health like I am, calcium, there's still that, oh, but I got to get my calcium. There are so many other pieces of nutrition that have to be taken care of to build strong bones. First gate to build strong bones is an active vitamin D profile. And to have an active vitamin D profile, you need enough magnesium to convert your stored vitamin D to your active vitamin D. Now, for me, I've dropped all calcium pills. I don't take those anymore like I used to in my 20s. And I was also someone who was diagnosed with osteoporosis in my 30s, and I've been able to reverse that. Again, not telling you what to do, just sharing with you what I've done and why I'm so passionate about this. I don't have that bone fatigue anymore. I don't have that ache in my bones that I couldn't even hold my hands up to drive because I had such incredible bone fatigue. And I did that through activating my vitamin D, through soaking in magnesium and dropping my Diet Coke and balancing cortisol levels. So when we don't balance our cortisol levels and we're in fight or flight, we're not building strong bones. And it's so important that we take those beginning pieces and start to put them together if we want to build strong bones. Now, are those the only pieces? Heck no. But those are the beginning pieces of putting bone structure back into place. And another interesting fact, well, I don't know, you tell me if you think this is interesting. I think it is. Did you know if you have a tooth pulled, that and don't get something put in its place, it can actually weaken your bone structure? So if you've got some dental work that you're needing to get taken care of, get something in there, because having that tooth missing will actually weaken bone structure. And we also know that sugar is an anti-nutrient, right? Sugar takes away from your magnesium. Now, I'm not saying you have to go sugar free. I'm saying if you want to rebuild your bones, or if you want to be preventative that you don't go into bone loss as you go through the cycle of life and perimenopause and menopause and postmenopause, if you want to stop that cycle of bone loss going through that, you have to do something different. Managing cortisol levels is a huge part of it, but they can't sell you that piece, right? You have to make little tiny conscious decisions all day long. So, for example, I have a little routine when I wake up. I get out of bed and I do some stretching, I do some deep breathing. I really push the oxygen out to the outer lobes of my lungs, because as we get older, those start to lose their ability to uptake oxygen. I love Pilates. I love jumping on my rebounder. I love lifting weights. Those are all things that help me feel good, help me have a more positive outlook. Did you know that when you're pumping weights, it's called the hope molecule? And when you are lifting those weights and I don't know if you've ever experienced this. Tell me, you guys that are on, if you have experienced this. You're lifting that weight and you feel so good. Like, yeah, there's some soreness with the moving that muscle, but oh, you just feel so good. That is the hope molecule. And the only way you can get that is through lifting weights. And it increases bone density. So it's when we start to rebuild bones, we don't start with synthetic nutrition. So there's one of my votes against synthetic nutrition. Now let's talk about another one. Adrenals. Adrenals are so important, right? We know that adrenals run on potassium and salt. Like that's the gasoline for adrenals is potassium and salt. And I'm going to come back to my potassium story in just a little bit. Those adrenals sit in collagen. And as we get older, we start to get a little collagen decrease. And you see it in people's faces. And when you see it on their face, you also know that it's happening to the foundation that the adrenals sit in. That collagen is breaking down. Sugar breaks it down, stress breaks it down, lack of magnesium breaks it down. So, something that builds collagen is vitamin C. And so, for years, we were marketed vitamin C. This has vitamin C, helps build adrenals, helps support collagen production. That vitamin C was vitamin C as ascorbic acid, which was made from high fructose corn syrup, which actually doesn't do any of those things. And actually, it stops you from storing and holding your iron. So some people who were already anemic, taking that ascorbic acid would really be detrimental for them. And somebody who was borderline, it could have put them into the anemia category. And someone who had strong iron stores, it could have started to decrease your body's ability to hold iron. Now, you can say, wait a minute, though. Linus Pauling did all that work with ascorbic acid, and we know the power of vitamin C because of his research. Guess what? His vitamin C was whole food ascorbic acid. Our vitamin C is synthetic from high fructose corn syrup. Even though there's that commercial with the two women standing in the cornfield. Have you guys seen this one? The two women standing in the cornfield and talking about how corn and it's natural. It does not mean that ascorbic acid, vitamin C, made from high fructose corn syrup, made from corn, is a good fit for my body. I don't know. I want to know on you guys. Now, I'm a acerola cherry kind of girl because it's got a strong copper core. It helps you convert from stored T4 to active T3. Are you noticing a pattern here? We need our body converting from the stored form to the active form. And it's such an important role to play. And high fructose corn syrup doesn't do that. But so I switched to Camu for a long time, not realizing Camu didn't have that copper at its core. Acerola cherry powder from a properly grown and processed has that strong core. Now, we've been out over on the website, Living the Good Life Naturally. We've been out because I won't just use any acerola cherry, but we're very close to having it back in stock. Very, very close to having it back in stock. But that's why I carry that product, acerola cherry, because I'm not willing to do the high fructose corn syrup ascorbic acid. Okay, so let's talk about another one. And this one hits a little bit close to home for me in that so many people will say, oh, powdered magnesium in a powder form and make a little drink, or in a pill form. There are downsides. We know there are downsides to isolated synthetic nutrition. Let's go back to what my father-in-law said, that story I shared at the beginning. And he said, my grandkids would be better off eating the cardboard than eating the cold cereal that at least get some fiber. He knew then what I didn't understand. All of those nutrients are synthetic isolated nutrition. And in the 20 years, over 20 plus years that I've been watching women create health, I've never seen anyone recapture their health while and and rely on cold cereal to fulfill all of their nutritional needs. But here's what we do. So, I mean, that's just common sense. But then we go to the health food store, and for some reason, we have this disconnect. We walk in the health food store, and that same nutrition, synthetic isolated nutrition that's in the cold cereal, they capsulate it and put it in pills. And for some reason, in the health food store, we're all excited it's going to get us healthy. And here's, in fact, we've had an explosion of magnesium cells. Like another, I think we're at like 2,700 people in like the last 6 days who have joined the 30-day magnesium challenge. And a lot of them are emailing in and saying, if I stop my magnesium, my bowel function will slow down. That magnesium orally, if you're using it to support bowel function, you're telling your body, hey, we don't need peristaltic action happening. Don't even worry about that muscle. This magnesium is going to push the food out so fast that the uptake of food and the nutrients from food, and even as imperfect as our food is, I still believe imperfect action and whole food can create optimal health. I see it every week. And so they've told their body with that synthetic isolated magnesium, hey, take over. And then they lose that muscle of peristaltic action that is so important to optimal gut health. So, where are you at with isolated nutrition? Are you okay with it? And guess what? You and I might be on completely different pages. You might be someone who hasn't struggled with health issues, who hasn't had food allergies, who's never been on a feeding tube, who's never had seizures, who has always had great liver function. You haven't had to fight to get that liver function back. And you might be completely okay with it, and you and I can still have respectful dialogue over it. For me, it's not a good fit. And I want you to start looking in all the places, not just obvious places for bioengineered food. And I got angry, I got frustrated when I saw that. And I wanted people to understand that is why I'm so passionate about importing the very best, cleanest magnesium possible from the cleanest source. I could get it from Russia cheaper. I could get it from Utah cheaper. One has cyanide, one has heavy metals. Not acceptable for my body. And so I get it from the cleanest source available. It's third party tested, and it is taken from the sea. It is not isolated synthetic nutrition. It is a, an ancient sea brine, and it's brought up, and it is not produced in a lab from synthetic nutrition, because that doesn't get you to cell saturation. And my goal is 6.3 or above, because I want healthy hormones, a strong gut, strong immune system, strong brain function, strong neurotransmitter uptake. And to have all of those things, we have to have a strong vitamin D profile. And to have that strong vitamin D profile, we need magnesium. And here's the thing. Let's go a little bit. I'm really thinking of all those new people that have started the 30-day challenge. And that is that it's not that magnesium cures everything. I'm not saying you're going to soak in magnesium and it's going to cure everything. Number one, remember, I'm not a doctor. And number two, that's ridiculous. It's not going to cure everything. It is the first gateway of health that you've got to restore and put back together. And if we do things in their proper order, we don't have to chase symptoms. We don't have to chase hormones, chase thyroid, chase energy, chase mitochondria. When we put those health gateways back together in their proper order, the first being the vitamin D, the second being the voltage. Oh my gosh, we didn't even get to that, but I want to read what Audra said. Oh, truth. Improved digestion, corrected thyroid, and built muscles at 46 without synthetic nutrition. Daily action steps and clean whole food sources for the win. I love that. Okay, so now here's last thing. I promise this is last thing. I have gone too long. I always go too long. So here's the last thing I want to talk about. I was talking to an ER doc, and we were talking about potassium because I have been using some synthetic nutrition. I've been using some electrolytes, and that salt, magnesium, and potassium helps with voltage at the cellular level. And I have been taking some electrolytes. The more I work out, the more I lift those weights, the higher the electrolyte need my cells have. And so I was making my own, and then I'm just like, oh, it's so much easier. I'm going to use these. Did you know that synthetic, again, we're back in that same pattern, synthetic, isolated, single nutrition of potassium can cause issues when taken long term? Now, for some people, it might not. For other people, it might cause it right away. For some people, it might take a while. And the comment was made, if you are taking synthetic potassium, because potassium changes the alkalinity, the acid alkaline balance in your body, his recommendation was taking some baking soda every once in a while to neutralize what the potassium had done. Now, here's the deal. When you take that potassium in whole food form, you don't have to worry about that. And so it's got me rethinking. Now, I know I am going to use some electrolytes again. I've got them in my cupboard. When it's fast and a crazy busy day, I am going to use those electrolytes. I am focused, though. Here's my I am statement about electrolytes. I am focused on using more homemade electrolytes versus a powdered form of electrolytes, knowing that the potassium has some new consequences that I really didn't understand how impactful it was on the acid alkaline balance, and that it can throw your body off. And for those with kidney function issues, that synthetic potassium becomes an even bigger issue. So, what about you? Do you use electrolytes? I do. And I knew they were synthetic nutrition. I used them because they were fast and easy after a workout. And I need to get and create a system to make up my homemade electrolytes and have them accessible. And I need to add that back into my routine. So I would love to know, any of you that are still online. Oh, we've got even more people now. For those of you that have joined me, do you use powdered electrolytes? And does this conversation about talking about electrolytes, does it make you kind of think about what's best for you? And it's so important. And I do want to share, comments will be deleted if there's any negativity that happens about people's decisions, because one person might get on and say, I'm golden. I am sticking with my powdered electrolytes. And we're going to applaud that because that person made that decision for them. And I'm in charge of the decision for me. Oh, Beth says occasionally. Yeah, I was using them more than occasionally, Beth. I'd kind of gone over a lot. Interesting to know. Feel good that I do switch it up from time to time. So, Beth, for me, is what I'll be doing is I will be relying less on the powdered electrolytes than I was, because just things get busy and they're easy. They're super easy. But I do know that I can create a system so that I'm relying on them less. So right now, that's my focus. That's my focus. Oh, only use powdered electrolytes when fasting once a month or so. So I love that Audra's tuned in to the voltage in her body. When you're fasting, typically um, your electrolyte needs go up when you're fasting, and that can help you increase that fasting time. So, synthetic nutrition showing up in great value marshmallows as bioengineered tilapia. It got it it got me going this morning. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to get online. I want to have a conversation. I want to see where people are coming from. And I want to promise you that living the good life naturally's magnesium will never be isolated nutrition, ever. It will never be lab produced. And my promise is that never, with me in the company, that will never happen, because there are downsides to that isolated synthetic nutrition. And we're soaking in magnesium, you and I, to achieve cell saturation. And that's why over 2,700 in the last week have joined the 30-day challenge. Well, a lot of those are still waiting for their magnesium to show up. And this is also a reminder that team is working fast, hard, and furious, packing orders to get those orders out to you so that you can start your 30-day challenge. Thanks for joining me today. My name's Kristen Bowen. I'm the founder of Living the Good Life Naturally and passionate about magnesium. Have the best day. Bye-bye.